Hello and welcome to Media Mastery Show. My name is Aldwyn Altuney, and it is with great pleasure today that I bring you the lovely Mel Kettle. She's coming to us from Brisbane. She has been in the marketing game for about 20 years, actually over 20 years, and in social media marketing now for about 10 years. So she certainly is a great expert in her field, and we're going to learn some fantastic tips today about how to communicate effectively and attract, retain and engage with customers and clients using social media. Hello and welcome, Mel.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And yeah, it really is. This is such a growing area, and so many people are have no idea about social media and what to do with social media, and they just get very overwhelmed in this area. So it's fantastic that you've got so much experience. I really appreciate your time sharing that with us here today. So, Mel, how did you first get into social media marketing in the first place?
So I started my career as working in regular marketing before social media started, and my first job out of uni was working for a small conference and event management company, and we had to do everything for the event. So we had to look after the delegates on the day, but in the lead up to that, we had to help the organising committee with all the marketing. So we did all the brochures, we wrote copy for ads, promoted it through industry publications. It's so much easier today to promote an event than it was 20 years ago, let me tell you, when there was no Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn to tell people about it. And so from there, I then went and worked for a bigger marketing agency and ran all the events for a big IT company in Australia. And then I moved to Brisbane about 17 years ago and worked as the marketing manager for the Brisbane Festival, which was an absolutely fantastic performing arts festival, or still is a fantastic performing arts festival in Brisbane. And then I went to government and worked, and this was all pre-social media. Then I went to government and worked as a communications manager in a number of different government departments, mainly educating businesses and consumers about their rights and responsibilities under a lot of legislation. And it was around that time that I began thinking there's got to be more to life than working for somebody else. And so I made a bit of a career change and struck out on my own in 2006. And it was around that time that, it was probably a couple of years later, that LinkedIn and Facebook started. So, of course, I jumped on Facebook to catch up with friends overseas and to see what they were doing. And in early 2009, I went to a marketing event in Brisbane, and one of the speakers was talking about Twitter. And he was really gung-ho about Twitter. And I remember thinking, what's this Twitter thing? I'll just jump on and have a look. So I had a bit of a play, and I fell in love with Twitter within about, 5 minutes of signing up for an account, because I just loved how you could have really immediate conversations with people all around the world about anything, from, what you had for breakfast that day, which is what a lot of people talked about back then, through to really pressing conversations and really compelling, finding out really compelling information about what was happening in my industry as it happened, and really quickly. And that was just so earth-shattering to me. So within about 3 months of jumping on Twitter, I was meeting some incredible people, having fascinating conversations and generating a lot of followers. And a colleague of mine who runs the same marketing event where I first heard about Twitter rang me one day and said, "You're on Twitter everywhere, and you've got a great following and you're saying some fantastic stuff, so I'm assuming you're an expert. Can you come and speak at one of our events on how businesses can use Twitter and social media to become more engaged with their customers?" And I remember thinking, I've only been using it for 3 months and I'd never even thought about it from a business perspective, but sure, I'll come along.
Great, awesome.
So that's how it started, and that was in 2009. And from then it's just grown in leaps and bounds. So I do a lot of work now with organisations to help them understand not just social media, but communication in general, and how they can use effective and authentic communication to get to know their client base better and their target market better. Because the more you know people, as you know, people do business with people, and they tend to do it with people they know, like, and trust. And so if you can generate that know, like, and trust factor within your market, then people are far more likely to want to work with you and give you their hard-earned money.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's great, isn't it? Isn't it funny how life rolls sometimes?
Oh, I know, I know. I still remember that conversation and just thinking, oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
amazing.
just, yeah, one little thing has had such a massive impact on me over the years. Yeah.
Beautiful. So you make plans and God laughs. So
I know.
sometimes the universe just takes you in a certain direction. Well, it's definitely a growing field, and I think there'd be no shortage of people wanting to have you as a speaker because it is such a hot topic, social media, and we all love it. We all tend to get very addicted. I know I'm quite addicted to social media, and I think the biggest challenge is actually stepping away from social media and lost in it. You can just literally just become a permanent stalker on social media.
Yeah.
Go from video to profile to video. So how do you actually control your urges for being addicted to social media, and particularly in business when we are so busy? What's the best strategy to actually to attract, retain, and engage customers? There's probably lots of things we can do here. If you could share some of your wisdom, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so the first thing to do is to just actually sign up. Well, to identify where are your customers and where's your target market, where do they hang out and where do they get information. And from a social media perspective, the number one channel that most people use is Facebook. So the Census Social Media Report comes out every year, and last year it showed that I think it's something like 70% of Australians have a smartphone, and something like 90% of Australians have an internet-enabled device. And people who use social media, 95% of them have a Facebook account. And the second most used social media platform by people who work in the marketing space in particular is LinkedIn. And so if you're doing business to business, like if your target market is other businesses, then LinkedIn is probably where you need to be. But if your target market are consumers, then Facebook is probably where you need to be. Obviously, I'm generalizing quite broadly here, but Facebook is the number one platform in the world by an enormous percentage over number two. So what you need to do is, first of all, you need to work out where you need to be, and then you need to start sharing content, and you need to start looking at, okay, what's the problem that my market has? What are the problems that my customers have, and how can I help solve them? And this goes across the board for marketing and communication in general, not just for social media. But you need to think, what's their problem? How can I help them? How can I tell them that I can help them? So when people start out on social media, they usually just start by looking to see, what has worked, what's it doing. And at that stage, they're not really engaging with anybody. They're just observing. And then the next phase that they use is they might start broadcasting. So they might, similar to mass media, where you used to send out a media release and hope that somebody picked it up. That's what a lot of businesses do when they first start on social. They'll just start spamming out information. This is my great product, you should buy it. This is the great event that I'm running next week, you should come along. This is, it's all about me. And it's all very spammy. It's very one way. They don't tend to engage with the people on the other end. They don't tend to have conversations. So the next thing that they need to be doing is obviously having these conversations, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yes.
And so if you're having a conversation with somebody, then you can get to know them, but just as importantly, they can get to know you. And you can find out more. You can ask them questions. You can say, what's your problem? What can I do to help you? And, a lot of the time what people say is their problem is actually not the real problem. Their real problem might be something that's quite different, but they aren't aware of how to articulate that, or often what it is. So as a business, if you can work that out, then you've got a much better chance of winning their business. And then once you've started to have conversations with people online, that's when you start building relationships. And once you've started to build relationships, then people are far more likely to want to do business with you. And a great example of that is a colleague of mine from Twitter years ago had a really small winery outside of Canberra, and she definitively maintains that her business succeeded during the GFC because of the relationships that she'd built with people on Twitter. So she had conversations about, obviously about her wine and about her restaurant and about what they served and drank and how the winemaking process happened. But she talked a lot about, how Canberra winters are cold, how there's not much to do, how farming life can be difficult, how there's crap on TV. And people engaged with that because people don't want to talk about business all the time.
Yes.
It's like when you go to a networking event, you don't go up to somebody and immediately start talking about your products and your services. You ask questions. How's the weather? What do you think of the American election? What do you think about Brexit? What do you think about, what's happening in the world today? What about those Broncos? And you build a relationship based on not trivialities, but things that you might have a common interest in.
Yes.
And social media is no different.
Yes, similarities. Well, see, this is interesting because there's a lot of business people I've talked to that have said, they don't want all their public information out there. They're worried about people stealing their information. And so a lot of them, don't even want their personal profiles on there. And so you get business people that just set up a business page but won't actually have a personal profile. However, people do want to know the person, don't they? So how important is it to have a personal profile that's actually also a public profile, not just with your close friends and family, but something... Or would you have two profiles? Would you have one for just friends and family and one as a business profile page? Or, what's the best strategy?
I think it depends on the nature of your business. So as a business owner, all of mine is integrated into the one because it's who I am. And plus, managing social media accounts is time consuming. So I want as few as possible. Like I don't want 6 Twitter accounts or 11 Facebook pages and a personal profile because that's just time consuming. So think about again, who's your audience and what do you want them to know? Now with Facebook, you should have your personal profile and make that as personal as you choose, lock it down as secure as you like. Keep that just for your immediate family and friends. But then as a business, you should be having a Facebook page as well, because with a Facebook page, you can find out great insights about the people that like and follow your page, but you can also use that to share business content, but you can also use it to share some personal content. And that doesn't need to be your deepest, darkest secrets, but it can be things like, talk about the challenges of running a business, talk about the wins that you have, talk about, when it's a little bit more difficult, and show your human side. And look at how can you share stories that might be a personal story that relates to a business issue. So let me see if I can find an example. Nothing on top of my head. But think about, what do you do? Like if you're a marathon runner, how do you prepare for that? And being a business owner is very similar to running a marathon because you can't go out hard and fast or you'll burn out. So, look at how you can find relevant stories that are from your extremely non-professional life to more of the personal side and see how you can, because that helps build relationships as well. And the other thing is show vulnerability because people relate to that. And as I keep on banging on about, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And if they can feel that you're like them and that you make mistakes, then people will like that more.
Yes, very, very important. Yeah, I like that. And actually, people do really, it's interesting when there is some hardship, like a few years ago, for example, I had a near-death experience and I put a post on Facebook about it and about how fragile life was. And, I was inundated with people's, sending their wishes. And, you actually don't realize how many people actually see your messages.
Exactly.
And I kind of want to nowadays, because I don't think Facebook shows your messages to as many people. So is that world changing? However, in saying that, I felt very loved on Facebook because, it made me realize how many people, I guess I'd impacted in some way in my life. And I felt very loved. And same with now when I have my birthday, I get literally thousands of messages for my birthday, which is really nice too. I still get a few birthday cards as well. However, the whole way we send messages now for special events has And I do wonder about, you know, how many people do Facebook show your messages to nowadays? Has that changed a lot lately? Because I know Facebook are pushing for people to advertise more. So what do you know about that?
So Facebook, the Facebook algorithm changes all the time. And the latest change to the algorithm is that they will reward good content. So if you create content, and this isn't just, you know, I'll talk about Facebook, but creating great content needs to be created on all social platforms, not just Facebook. So if you create great content that people will like or share or comment on, then because people are doing things with it, Facebook will reward that, and Facebook will make sure that more people see that, because they can tell that it's great content by the number of likes and shares and comments that it's getting. So the way to create good content, what I recommend is every time you have created a piece of content and you think, okay, I'm now going to put this on Facebook, ask yourself, if this was on somebody else's Facebook page, would I like that? Would I click like? Would I comment on it, or would I share it? And if the answer is no, then ask yourself why. And chances are it's because it's really boring content, in which case you need to go back to the drawing board and create something else. And there's a few ways that you can jazz up your content. You can use images and use, you know, great visuals that you can either get from photos that you've taken yourself, or that you can buy from or access a stock image library. Or you can use infographics, or you can use diagrams or drawings. You don't need to always use a photo as an image. You can use video. Facebook loves video. Facebook loves video. I can't emphasize that enough. And Facebook especially loves Facebook Live, because it's a great opportunity for you to be engaging in the moment with your audience. And so if you do Facebook Live, then Facebook makes sure that as many people as possible will see that. And then the other way is to tell stories. So if people remember a story far more than they remember a stat. So, you know, like the story with my friend and her winery, I can't tell you how much wine she produced. I know she's told me, but I remember the fact that she produced all this wine because of her social media presence and her Twitter presence. So think about, how can you share stories that relate to things that are relevant to your audience? And then, you know, people are more likely to like it and to share it and to comment on it.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And then, you know, there's a way to share stories too. So with Facebook Live, I've done quite a few of these, and I literally get hundreds of views. It's amazing. I love the immediacy of it. The fact that I can do a live video, and people are popping up, liking it and commenting on it. And, you know, I love engaging with them. I say, hi, Sam, hi, you know, I say hello to them. And, you know, it's great. You kind of feel like you've got an immediate audience. And people absolutely love it. So I think it's a very powerful medium. So what about you know, how do you share those stories? What's the ideal length for a Facebook Live video, would you say?
Well, it's like saying how long is a piece of string. I think your ideal length it depends again on how good is your content. If you're doing a 1 hour interview or a 1 hour workshop, or, you know, providing really useful information, then people will stay. But if you just have, you know, a conversation that's not engaging, not interesting, and not hitting the mark, then make it short. You know, you could do a Facebook Live for a couple of minutes, or you could do one for an hour and a half. You know, I've sat and watched a couple that have been quite long because they were just so interesting. But the other thing, don't forget, with Facebook Live, you can save that to your Facebook page afterwards and people can watch it later. So I've done a couple of Facebook Lives that have only had, you know, 2 or 3 people watching it live because I was overseas and the time zone didn't work for the majority of my audience in Australia. But 1,000 people have watched one of them, because it was great content. And, you know, I shared it widely, and I said, look, this was me talking about, it was when I went to Social Media Marketing World in the US earlier this year. I did a summary for between 15 and 30 minutes at the end of each of the 3 days. And, you know, I just said, this is what I learned, this is what I shared, this is what I'm sharing with you. These were the top 3 things for me. And people love that. So, you know, they didn't listen at the time, but because of the time zone, but they did watch it later. And I think you need to remember that just because you might not have a great live audience at the time doesn't mean that people won't come back to it if it's great content.
Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, I have watched whole workshops done on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
I saw Neve Cronin actually, and they had music playing, and I loved it. I felt like I was in the room, and it was very special, you know, to be able to sit at home in your pajamas and and feel like you can be anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But one of my favorite examples of, you know, a video that just went crazy is the Chewbacca Mum video. Now, I don't know if you've seen it or if anybody watching's seen it, but Google it because it's absolutely fantastic. It's this woman in the US who goes to, I don't know, Walmart, Kmart, or Coles or somewhere, and buys this mask of Chewbacca and gets in a car on her way home and just does this little Facebook Live to her friends saying, I've bought this mask, and she just laughs. She just laughs the entire time, and it's absolutely hysterical.
Oh, wow.
It's been viewed 167 million times.
Wow.
And it's been shared 3.3 million times. And as a consequence of her doing this, she's had appearances on Good Morning America, on the James Corden Show, on a whole bunch of other national network TV, as well as speaking opportunities. They made a doll of her. So her, you know, she also happened to have this great video that was just after Facebook Live happened. And so they used her as a showcase because she created this amazing video. But, you know, I show it in presentations and workshops, and I say to people, it's nothing special if you look at it. It's this mum from, I don't know, the middle of whatever state she lives in, like she's just a normal mum with, you know, 2 young kids. They're going back to school soon. She's a bit overweight. She talks about that in the video because she went to the supermarket or the shop to return some clothes, and she says they're not because they were too tight, because they were too big. I bet you weren't thinking that, were you? And so she just has a laugh at herself.
Right.
She's so authentic. And that's what I say to people. You need to be authentic. And if you do video and if you do Facebook Live, don't script it. Don't make it perfect. Make it real, because people relate to that, and people, you know, love that authenticity.
Yes.
And it's just so important to build relationships.
Yes. So, well, that sounds fantastic. So how do you spell, did you say Chewbacca? How do you actually spell that for people that are watching this that
it's Chewbacca, the Star Wars character. So CHEWBACCA.
Oh, okay. Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. So I probably would have spelled BACKER. So there you go. So that's
all right.
That's great. People go, I will Google that. That sounds so, and that is the thing, is be real, because, you know, I think a lot of people are sick of the lies out there. I think they're sick of I do Truth Expose TV as well, because I'm sick of the lies out there. I mean, we get it from governments, we get it, it's all around us. There's so many out of integrities, and so many people that just are not living real lives that they love. And it's almost like we're conditioned to be, you know, robots of society. And so it's almost expected that, that people will lie, cheat, or steal. In fact, they've done studies and they've actually done tests where people have had an opportunity to lie, cheat, or steal. And when they haven't known that someone has been watching them, because they had hidden cameras in these rooms, most people will lie, cheat, or steal if they think they can get away with it, which is quite incredible. So I think this new age of authenticity and truth. Actually David Icke called it truth vibrations when I interviewed on Truth Expose TV. So being true, being real, being authentic in your videos, I think is very, very powerful. And actually, I did a Facebook Live sharing some of my harder moments when I was younger, and I actually got quite teary in this Facebook Live. And I had I had cousins from Sydney that later commented, and they said, we didn't know all of this about you. So it's amazing, it's amazing really when you share from the heart how many people you can reach, and you can really leverage your message, so you don't need to repeat yourself 500 times to different people, and just speak from the heart about. And really that was all about how grateful I was, and how I had a very challenging upbringing with my parents, and now we have the most amazing relationship. So I just shared a bit about that, and how I was depressed and suicidal when I was younger. So I just shared intimately. I shared from the heart, and but a lot of people, they are kind of scared of speaking to camera, to doing the selfie Facebook Live thing. A lot of people are very, very scared of that. So what are some ways that they can overcome their fears around sharing their story on social media?
Yeah, I think the number one thing when it comes to video is you've got to remember that it's not about you, it's about your audience. So, you know, to be blunt, get over yourself because people want to know. And just pretend, you know, everybody's got a smartphone these days, and it's really easy to have a FaceTime conversation with your mum or your best friend or your partner. So just pretend that's what you're doing. Pretend that you're having a FaceTime chat with somebody who you love, and that will make you feel so much more relaxed if you don't think about the fact that it's going out more broadly than that. The only difference is that obviously there won't be people talking back to you. So, you know, it can be a little bit off-putting, and it's a hard thing to get used to doing, but the benefit as a business owner, it's massive. And you've reminded me that I haven't done a Facebook Live for ages, so I need to get over myself and do some more.
Right, okay. I look forward to
seeing fun, and they're really rewarding. Yeah, but if I can just say too, we've been talking about being authentic and being real with video. Don't just do it with video. Do it. All your communications needs to be authentic. And you need to be, you know, don't just, you need to live your values as a business owner, and it's in a business. So if you say, you know, I really, we value our customers' time, then don't take 3 days to return their email. Or don't, you know, let their phone go to voicemail and not ever get returned. And from a social media perspective, if you really value your customers, you'll have a presence on social media because that's where they expect you to be. And when they talk to you on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you might be, you have to answer them back because they expect that. So if you do a shout out, you know, there's a couple of big brands, like big department stores in particular, David Jones and Meyer, not to name too many names, but if you tweet them, they won't answer you. So you can have a customer service problem that you want to address with them, and they will ignore you. And that's criminal. But, you know, I'm naming them because they're big and I can, but there's so many small businesses that do it equally badly. And compare that to, say, you know, some of the airlines and some of the telcos, and they're fantastic. I was in the US recently and had some problems. I woke up in the morning of my flight home from New York to say, your flight's been delayed, call us. So I rang the number, was on hold for an hour and 5 minutes, and the person on the other end didn't actually know what I was talking about. So I went to Twitter and said, I've been asked, you know, Qantas, can you help me? I'm on a flight out of New York and apparently it's been delayed for the LA part. What's going on? And within an hour it was resolved, and they booked me another flight. And that was, you know, quite a lengthy conversation back and forth. And their Twitter person was fantastic. And she said, yeah, I've booked you on, you know, go to New York, go to JFK as you're going to. Once you get to LA, rather than staying overnight to wait for your connecting flight to Sydney, I've just booked you on a direct flight to Brisbane, because I asked if she could, because that was my final destination. So I got home, actually ended up getting home 2 hours earlier than I would have on my original flight that was meant to go through Sydney. So, you know, there's countless examples of businesses doing amazing things on social media. Unfortunately, there's even more examples of businesses not doing the right thing and not having any presence, or having but not using it, and just spamming out information like we spoke about earlier. And, you know, there's research that shows in Australia that's 52% of small business in Australia has zero social media presence. 48% of medium-sized business in Australia has zero social media presence, and about 36% of big business, like big corporates in Australia, have zero social media presence.
Wow.
So their competitors are must be having the biggest laugh, because the competitors that are using social media have such a competitive advantage because they're being able to build relationships with customers. They're being able to find out what their customers' problems and challenges are, and they can solve them. And they can tell them that they're solving them, and they can publicly tell them that they're solving them, which means more people will think, oh, I've got the same problem. Oh, this company's fixed that problem for this person, I'll go to them, rather than going to somebody else who's got no social media presence.
Yes.
Doesn't understand what the problem is, let alone telling people that they can solve it.
Yeah, it's a very good point you raised. And a lot of business people are so busy, of course, they say, oh, I don't have time for social media. So that's where they need to get a social media expert or someone else, to a social media manager, to do that for them. In which case, then there's the issue of, okay, so you're outsourcing your social media to someone. How do you keep those messages authentic?
Please don't. No, please don't outsource your social media.
Okay.
As a business, you wouldn't outsource returning your telephone calls to somebody. You wouldn't outsource, the sales process. So why on earth would you outsource your social media, which is critical for building relationships? What you can outsource, or what you can get support with, is, engaging somebody like me, who's a social media expert, who can help you identify where you need to be on social media. They can help you identify where your market and where your audience is. They can definitely help you get set up. They can help you develop a content plan. They can talk to you about how to create great content, what makes great content, and they can even, do a little bit of that for you and with you. But you really need to have the management of the day-to-day in-house, because it's way too easy for things to go wrong when you don't. Because you just, you need to be the ones building those relationships with your customers. And customers aren't silly. They know when it's being outsourced versus when it's the business themselves managing it in-house, because it's a different feel and it's a different language and it's a different tone. And even though it's, it might be a tweet or it might be a Facebook post, that comes across that degree of caring. It really does. So, one of the things that I do is I work with organisations to help them understand why they should be using social media and how they can be using it authentically. And I'll help them develop a social media strategy. I'll help them find the right people to do it, from either within their organisation or externally. And then I mentor those people so they can still have that expert to make sure that they're on the right path and that they're doing the right thing, but they've got that authenticity and those skills staying in-house.
Okay, that's very interesting. That's very interesting, because, a lot of people on social media, they put, inspiring quotes, or they'll put, tips. Like, so for example, I've got, Mass Media Mastery Facebook page, and sometimes I put some PR tips on there. So the PR tips, if you share an article or some tips on PR, people may not know exactly if it's coming directly from you or from someone you've outsourced to.
So those kinds of things, you can definitely engage other people to create your content for you. But when it comes to that day-to-day engaging and those conversations and the banter, you can't outsource that. You need to do that yourself.
Yes,
so you can certainly get somebody to schedule some, some Facebook posts for you, and to help you with that creation of the content. But I can't reiterate enough, you need to do that day-to-day engaging conversation and management of it far more in-house. And also, the social listening. Listen to what people are saying about your brand and your industry. And as somebody in the industry, you'll get to see the trends of what the problems and the challenges are. You'll get to see what people want next. And if you outsource that to somebody who doesn't have that intimate knowledge of your industry or your brand, they'll miss that, which means you'll miss opportunities.
That's a very good point. So that means business owners need to make time for social media. So how much time should they allocate, and when should they be doing their postings?
Well, again, it really depends on what your goals are for your social media. It depends on how big an organisation you are. So, an organisation like Telstra has something like 30% of their marketing team managing social media accounts. I might have that wrong. Sorry, Jason, if you're listening. But big businesses have multi-people teams that operate 24/7, 365 days of the year managing their social, because it's important to them. So, for example, when I ran Qantas, I was in New York. It was 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning in New York, and it was probably 2 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand, where they do where a lot of their social media team is based. But, they had somebody there on it, answered me, helped me, because they run a business 24/7, 365 days of the year. So you need to think about what kind of business do you run, and what do people expect? So if you're a sole trader, or if you're a really small retail business or a hospitality business, then think about, when are people going to want information from me? And, look at managing your social then. You don't need to be there 24/7 if you're a small business, but, you put that in your profile maybe. Put in your profile, these are the hours that we have a presence here. Vodafone do a great job with that. They don't have a 24/7 presence, but they say at, I think they sign off at whatever time at night they sign off. They say, that's it for us for today. We'll see you again tomorrow at, 6 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever time they're back in tomorrow. So, that's when they're going to be there, and that's when they're going to respond. So it's about setting expectations. The airline KLM, I love their Twitter account. If you go to their Twitter page, which I think is just twitter.com/KLM, it will tell you in their image at the top how many minutes you'll be waiting for somebody from KLM to respond to your tweet.
Wow.
Now, how's that for service? That's exceptional. That sets an expectation. And if they say, we're really slammed, it's 22 minutes before somebody will respond to your tweet, and they get back to you in 17, how does that make you feel about them? That makes you feel pretty damn good about KLM.
Yeah, it does.
They've exceeded your expectation.
That's wow factor.
Absolutely is wow factor.
Yeah. And that is something that is lacking in business nowadays.
It is.
Customer service standards. I don't think a lot of people, particularly small business owners, I don't think they really set customer service standards.
No.
Some of the bigger businesses might do. So what are some customer service standards you think that people actually expect nowadays, with the immediacy of the world?
Can I just say, social media was never geared as a sales tool. It was always geared to be a conversational tool and a service tool, because it's called social media. It's not called sales media. And so if you're using it predominantly to get sales, you're doing it wrong. You need to be looking at that social aspect of it and the service aspect of it, because people expect, well, think about what you expect from customer service. I expect to get what I'm told I'm going to get, and to get it when I'm told I'm going to get it. So if I order something online and they say you'll get it Wednesday, I expect it Wednesday, not Thursday, not Friday, Wednesday. Or, if it comes on Tuesday, then that's amazing, because that's exceeded my expectation. Unless, of course, I said, I'm not home on Tuesday. Can you make sure it comes on Wednesday?
So under promise, over deliver.
Well, it's not even that. It is that, but it's about meeting your customers' expectations and delivering on what you tell them you'll deliver on, and giving them value, and not just, and then when something goes wrong, owning it, owning that mistake and owning it publicly if you have to. There's a great example of, there's so many examples of when things go wrong, but one of my favourite examples is of Lorna Jane, when she had an ad recently for a fit model / receptionist, and there was a massive outcry because people just assumed that she wanted a receptionist who was a model, whereas actually she wanted a model who could do reception duties. But she didn't address that. They just tried to explain it away and fobbed it off, rather than saying, oh, we actually made a mistake in how we described that role. So you've got to just, anytime you make a mistake in business, whether it's public on social media or whether it is private but it becomes public because somebody's told the media or put it on social media, you need to be acknowledging that and owning it and apologising where necessary, but making sure people know that you're aware of it and you're doing something about it.
Yes, people, very good point.
Think about when do people share their business experiences on social media? They share them when they're exceptionally bad, or even, a little bit bad, and they share them when they're exceptionally good.
Yes.
So you want to be thinking, how can I make my service exceptionally good so people will share it? And if I make a mistake and do something stupid and people share it, how am I going to mitigate that?
Yes.
What am I going to do to make it up to that person?
Well, that's right. Then there's reputation management that could come into effect which is a Band-Aid treatment, and you don't want to get to that point where you need to be doing Band-Aid treatments online.
Well, sometimes you do, because sometimes that's all it takes. But then you've got to go back and address the root of the problem. You know, another great example is United Airlines, when they broke a guy's guitar. A musician, years ago, there was a musician traveling on an internal flight within the US, and he watched the crew throw his guitar, and when he got it at the other end, it was broken. And so he tweeted, United, you broke my guitar, what are you going to do about it? And they didn't get back to him. So he tweeted again, they didn't get back to him. So he wrote a song, and the song went viral on YouTube. And this was all in the space of probably 2 or 3 days after they broke his guitar. And the song is called United Breaks Guitars.
Oh, wow.
And again, it wasn't until a couple of days had passed of this video going absolutely crazy that United reached out to him and said, how can we help you? So, you know, if they had responded to him immediately, he would have never written that song, and they would have never had that reputation trashed. But, you know, but on the flip side of that, there's a guitar case maker in the US who heard about this, and so he reached out to the guy and said, mate, I'm so sorry about your guitar. Can I make you a case for your next guitar so it won't happen again? Because it'll be a better case, it'll protect it more. And so this guy said, the guy went, yeah, great. So he got a new guitar case, and this guy, the guitar case builder's business went crazy because, again, the guy whose guitar got broken shared that on social media. And so every guitarist who travels wants one of these guitar cases now. So he had to create a new factory to make them because he couldn't keep up with demand.
Wow, that's great PR.
That's what you need to be doing as a business owner. You need to be finding people's problems and solving them. The problem was that the guitar case didn't prevent the guitar inside it from being broken. That was the core problem. United's lack of service was another issue, and their poor handling of luggage was also a problem. But the core problem, was that the guitar case wasn't sturdy enough to protect the guitar. So the guitar case maker went, I can fix that.
Wow, that's awesome. And that's an area that I guess, you know, he could take responsibility as well, the musician, in that he could have had a harder case, you know, or he could just blame United. And I mean,
well, he actually took his case on the plane, and they made him check it. And they said, no, you can't. And he said, but I have with other airlines. And they said, no, too bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, he watched them mistreat luggage as well.
Right.
So if it had been treated with reverence and with respect, which is what you would expect your luggage to be treated like, and not just flung and dropped. Yes. Wow, that's a great case study. Now, we need to wrap up fairly soon, but I really want to chat about some social media tools. So I notice sometimes with Twitter, when I send a message, I get an automated message back saying, thanks for following us. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't ever do that.
Okay. And why is that?
Spam. It's spam. It's, you know, automated messages are just saying, oh, yeah, we don't care enough to actually type in the message to say thanks for following me. We're just going to spam you. And put a sales link in there while we're at it.
Right.
If you want to genuinely thank somebody for following you, then have a look at their profile and send them back a tweet that says, thanks for following me. By the way, I read your blog, your website, looked at your profile and saw that we have this in common. You know, make it personal, because people do business with people, not with spam bots.
Got it. And same on LinkedIn, I found the same thing. So what about tools like Hootsuite? I've used Hootsuite. What do you suggest for a social media management tool?
There's lots of social scheduling tools. So there's Hootsuite, like you said. There's if you're using Facebook, then I think the best one is just going into Facebook and scheduling through Facebook. There's also tools like Meet Edgar. There's Buffer. There's loads of others. They all have different benefits. They all do slightly different things. They all often have a different cost. Some of them have a free version. Most of them have a paid version, and the paid version offers you different things. So it might be social listening, or it might just be letting you know how many times what you've shared is liked, commented on. or further shared. So you've just got to work out what's going to be the right thing for you, for how much you use it, and for what your budget is. But be aware, if you use a third-party tool to schedule to Facebook, Facebook gives people the option now of turning off all notifications of any posts that come from a third-party tool. Which is why I recommend using the Facebook in-app schedule.
Right. And times of days for posting? People say sometimes 11 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Well, again, who's your audience? You know, if your audience is mums, then posting at 11 a.m. is probably not going to be very helpful because they're going to be frantic. So if your audience is mums, think about posting, you know, when they're lying in bed in the morning before they get up, checking their Facebook, or when they're on TV at night after the kids have been put to bed, watching telly.
Right. And for business people, when would be a good time?
Well, again, it depends on what you want to get out to them and how you're messaging them. So someone said to me the other day, they're having a lot of great success in sending email messages or personal messages on Sunday afternoons to CEOs, because a lot of CEOs will check their LinkedIn or their email on a Sunday afternoon and see it before the gatekeeper of a PA deletes it. So, you know your audience.
And probably test and measure.
There's no one answer or right answer, because it depends on who you're getting out to. And if you've got an audience that's just local, then there's one set of time zones that work. But if your audience is global, then you need to identify, where are they? Are they in the US? Are they on the West Coast or in New York? Are they in London? Are they in South Africa? What time zones work for those people in those audiences? And, you know, you'll probably need to share the same posts multiple times. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially on Twitter. If you schedule a post to tweet out 6, 8, 10 times a day, and then for the first couple of days, and then, you know, with less frequency over time, people won't see them all. No one's on Twitter 24/7 or on Facebook 24/7. So you might post the same tweet out 12 times in a 24-hour period, and most people will see it once, if that. So don't be scared to share the same content again and again and again.
Right.
And repurpose it as well. Repurpose it for other platforms.
Right. Okay, yes, good point. Wow, there's so much we can talk about on this topic.
Yeah, there is.
And, you know, we're both very busy people, and I really appreciate your time. I know you've got to run very shortly. So how can people connect with you and work with you, Mel?
So my website is melkettle.com, and my Facebook is melkettlebiz. If you just put Mel Kettle into Google, everything will come up. Like the joys of having an uncommon name. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram as Mel Kettle as well. But yeah, if I can help in any way, I'm really happy to. So just, you know, click me an email or message me through Facebook or LinkedIn. And I'm really happy to have a conversation about how you might be able to improve your social media, because it can make a massive difference to your organisation's success.
Yes, fantastic, Mel. Thank you so much for joining us. And I guess we've covered pretty well, I think, how to use social media to attract, retain and engage with customers. Is there any big points we've missed, or do you think we've covered most of the big points?
Oh, look, I can't emphasise enough the importance of being authentic and of creating great content. If you do those two things and, you know your audience, obviously, then you should have some success.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Mel. And
absolute pleasure.
Thank you. It's been awesome. And thank you for watching. If you're watching this right now, I'm Aldwyn Altuney. You've been watching Media Mastery Show. I've been chatting with Mel Kettle, who's based in Brisbane. She speaks all over the world about how to use social media to attract, retain and engage with customers. So also a very in-demand speaker. So if you want to book her for a speaking gig as well, make sure you Google Mel Kettle, and she's absolutely awesome. And we've really just touched the surface today. There is so much more
we have.
we could have talked about. However, really appreciate your time. If you like what you've seen, please share it on your social media. We'd love to see any comments, any questions, any feedback you have. Please pop it underneath this video, wherever you're seeing it on social media right now or online. Love to hear from you. And you can connect with me on all the social media as well. Just Google my name. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. It's Aldwyn Altuney, and at Aldwyn on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Pinterest. I think I mentioned all of it. It's I love social media, and I'm quite hooked on it. So I spend a lot of my time on social media. However, I'm in the marketing sphere, so I guess that's what I do. So I love helping to get positive messages out in the media, and very passionate about reducing depression and suicide rates with positive messages in the media. So that's a big part of what I'm about. So thanks again for watching. Thank you, Mel. I really appreciate your time, and I will be following you. I'm going to be stalking you on social media, Mel.
Excellent.
Thanks once again. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back soon with more shows. Have a great day wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.